Good morning or good afternoon, whenever you're listening to this. It's morning for me. So, if you remember in chapter 10, it talked about the boys were home by themselves because mom and dad had gone to back to school night, right? And they were playing hide and seek in the dark, and they heard some weird noises, and none of them had made it. So, anyway, they had found all the boys had come downstairs out of their hiding spots, because they had heard this noise that sounded like "ooh-wee, ooh-wee," right? So, here we go. Chapter 11, Trapped. Three figures huddled on the widow's walk on top of the Hatfords' house. Rain beat steadily down on their yellow slickers, and the air was cold. Who do you think it is? Even if we catch pneumonia and die, it's worth it, said Caroline. It's those girls, her teeth chattering. Even if we fall off the roof and break our legs, Eddie agreed. One more time, Beth asked. No, didn't you hear them running? Let's wait until we think they've forgotten about it, then sock it to them again, said Eddie, and they giggled. It had all started when Beth heard a group of women called Sweet Honey in the Rock on the radio, singing a song they had written called Emergency. She had called the others to listen. Caroline wasn't sure how they did it, but using only their voices, the singers had managed to make themselves sound like a fire engine, each singing a different pitch, but rising and falling together at exactly the same time. So Caroline, Beth, and Eddie had gone out in the garage and lain in the loft practicing quietly, and they did it. Not as well as Sweet Honey in the Rock, but well enough. What's more, they discovered that if they kept their voices soft and wavered them just a little, they sounded like something none of them had ever heard before. Not a siren exactly, not quite human, not quite animal. And as soon as they discovered that, they knew what they were going to do. Never had they felt such power. How long should we wait? I'm so soggy, I'm going to grow mushrooms, Beth complained. We have to lull them into thinking they were imagining things, Eddie told her. Caroline smiled to herself in the dark as she huddled in her corner of the widow's walk. She had been so embarrassed when Mr. Hatford called and asked for his briefs back, and then to have to walk down the bridge with Mr. Hatford watching and exchange things with Wally. It was too much. A humiliation that dreadful needed revenge. She almost wished it was daylight and clear so that she could see out over Buckman. It felt strange being up here on the Hatfords' roof at night, and she imagined how much fun the boys must have had spying on her and her sisters when her family first moved in. If she and Eddie and Beth had lived over here and it were the Hatfords moving in, she no doubt they would have been spying on them. But that was beside the point. She wasn't even sure what the point was anymore, except that she and Beth and Eddie had never had so much excitement back in Ohio, and she hoped they would not go back when the year was over. Okay, let's do it again, Eddie whispered. All three girls leaned down over the trapdoor in the roof, mouths closed against the crack. 1, 2, 3, go, said Beth. And when they sang the song, the terrible, electrifying siren song that started low and soft, then rose higher and higher, louder and louder, tapering off into nothing like the wind. There was a thud of running feet once more from inside, closet doors opening and closing, yells, squares of yellow light appearing on the lawn as lights went on all over the house. We're driving them absolutely nuts, Eddie grinned. Positively bonkers, said Caroline. How long are we going to keep doing this? Till they come running and screaming out of the house with their hands up? It was a question they hadn't discussed. Why don't we keep it up until their parents get home, said Beth. Because then our parents will be home, and we'll have a lot of explaining to do, said Eddie. What time is it? Eddie tried to see her watch in the darkness. 8:30, I think. 15 more minutes then, Caroline said. Mom said not to expect them back before 9. That will give us time to get home and put the ladder away. The footsteps and door banging went on for some time before the house grew quiet again. Once more, Beth gave the signal, and once more the three girls leaned over, noses almost touching the roof, and made the sound that rose and fell like the wind. This time they wavered their voices, so the song seemed even more eerie, ghost-like. When they stopped, however, there was no noise from below. No voices, no footsteps, nothing. The girls did it again, a little louder, and waited. Still nothing. Caroline looked over the side of the railing. There were no squares of yellow light on the lawn, meaning that the boys had turned out all the lights. What were they doing? She and Eddie and Beth exchanged glances. Maybe they left. Maybe they just silently closed up and headed for the school to get their parents, said Beth. Wouldn't that be a blast? Said Eddie. We could do this again sometimes when their folks are away, Beth laughed. We would drive them wild. We could drive them out of Buckman, and then we'd have the town to ourselves, said Caroline. They waited a few minutes longer. If the boys had gone to the school to get their parents, it meant the Hatfords' cars would be turning in any moment. We better go, said Eddie. Carefully, they climbed down over the side of the widow's walk, then made their way down the sloping roof, scooting along on the seat of their pants, slowly, cautiously, grasping the shingles with their fingertips. Fingertips. Sorry. Slowly, cautiously grasping the shingles with their fingertips as they came. Caroline was in the lead, but when she reached the place where they had left the ladder, Caroline had seen the ladder was gone. Hoo-ee-oo! Came a yell from the yard below, and the four Hatford brothers emerged from the porch, yelling like banshees in the darkness. For the second time, Caroline's face burned with humiliation. There was nothing left to do but surrender. Okay, put the ladder back up, she said, but the boys paid no attention. Hoo-ee-oo! They yelped, running around the yard in the rain. Put the ladder back up, Eddie commanded, as though it would do any good. You wanted to be up there. You're up there, yelled Jake. Have a good time. Want some pillows? Have a good sleep, yelled Jake. It was beginning to rain harder now. It came down in huge drops, like water splashing out of the basin. Wally! Bellowed Caroline. But the boys only laughed and ducked under the porch roof. What had been fun before was scary now because of the rain and the dark. It was hard to maneuver. Come on, said Beth, inching her way back up on the roof. I've got an idea. Caroline and Eddie followed clumsily, strands of wet hair blowing in their faces. Caroline felt wet through and through. They reached the railing under the widow's walk and crawled under. I just have a hunch, Beth said, bending over the trapdoor again. Help me lift it, Eddie. See if it's latched. All three girls edged their fingers beneath the rim of the lid to the trapdoor and tugged. Just as Beth had suspected, the boys hadn't latched it again after their last spying episode. The girls stared down in total darkness. Are there stairs? Eddie asked. Caroline leaned over and put her arm down as far as it would reach. No, she said disappointedly. We could jump, said Eddie. We don't dare. We don't know what's under there. What good is this going to do? Eddie said. Just wait. We're going to keep the door open. You'll see. There was hail along with the rain now, smaller stones at first, and then larger and larger. Hoo-wee-hoo! Yelled the boys, delighted on the porch below. Let's go inside where it's warm and dry, came Jake's voice loudly from the porch. Yeah, let's make some hot chocolate, yelled Wally. With marshmallows, added Peter. Yum, yum. There was a sound of the door slamming as the boys went back in. A minute went by, then 2 or 3. The rain and hail was hitting the floor beneath the trap door. The girls could hear it. Suddenly a light came on, illuminating the Hatfords' attic and the stepladder beneath. Hail was pinging against the floor, and there was already a large puddle of water. Hey, said Wally's voice. Jake, they've opened the trap. They're letting in water. Feet pounded on the stairs, and Caroline looked down into Josh and Jake's angry faces. Close the trap door, Jake demanded. You'll ruin the floor. So, said Caroline. A car was pulling in the driveway. Your folks are home, said Eddie. Come on down. Get out of there. Hurry up, Josh yelled. Caroline slid inside, holding on to the raised edge around the opening of the trap door until her feet were securely on top of the stepladder. Eddie came next, and finally Beth, pulling the door closed behind her. Hurry, Josh was saying, pushing them toward the stairs to the second floor, and they thundered down, the boys at their heels. But it was too late. Just as Caroline reached the front door, it opened, and Mr. and Mrs. Hatford walked in. Hello, said Caroline, and then as she and her sisters went outside, goodbye. Oh dear. I think the parents are going to have to get involved, don't you? Oh my goodness. Uh-oh. Chapter 12, Letters. I wonder what that one's about. That one doesn't sound quite so scary as the other ones, but I'm sure it is. Okay. Enjoy your day.